Take 3. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can make spacious samples like these in FL Studio using nothing but native instruments and native plugins. Without any further ado, let's get right into the video. So in this instrumental, I actually use sounds that I created for the most part in my new bank, 3X Oscillator, the bank that I've been building for 3X Oscillator. I do have quite a few sounds here, and I'll be having more added to these as the weeks go on, and these sounds will be available pretty soon so you can get them yourself. But for now, I'm using some of the sounds that I created. Some of these sounds I actually created today. In order to get the sounds to sound this way, I didn't do very much with the sounds themselves as far as the plugin goes, but when it comes to the mixing, that's where all the effects and everything come in at. So with the first thing that I did was I used this 3X Oscillator, the preset Built Up. It's a pad that I created, and I actually created this pad today specifically to make this instrumental. What I did was I went inside and I laid down these chords in the key of D minor. Now, if you know anything about FL, you can go here, right click, and you can pick whatever scale you want to do, and then whatever the root note for that scale is, and that's what I did here. And I just kind of went up. You'll see the root here is D, the next one is E, the next one is actually F, but the voicings are changed up, and then the last one is going to be the A. If you take these two and you bring them down an octave, you'll see that this is a D minor triad with a 7th. So D minor 7th is that chord. These are all just playing straight through, and without any of the mixer presets on, this is what it sounds like. Now, it's not something that you would think that you would hear in any R&B or spacious type sound or music, but with all the mixing that I did to it, which wasn't very much, it actually came out sounding a lot different. I'll break down what I did to it. So the first thing I did was I brought in this parametric EQ. I cut out some of the lows, a lot of the highs there, and I dipped down those mid lows just to kind of give it a certain space. Next thing I used was hyperchorus. Now, if you don't update your FL Studio, you might not have hyperchorus. I do believe this is in 21 and above. I could be wrong, but I know it's in 21 and above. I don't know if this is available in every edition of FL Studio, but if you have at least the signature bundle up to the all plugins bundle, well, you should have this, and it may be in the producer edition. I'm not sure. But what I did was I cut the delay up some. I also cut the movement up some and the rate up just a little bit, and I brought the mix all the way in. And then on my mixer here, I blended it in with this knob. And I do a lot of my blending that way. You don't have to do it that way. It's just kind of what I like to do when it comes to blending. The next thing I added on there was the gross beat. Gross beat is really what's giving it its rhythm, I would say, and its vibe. Once you open up gross beat, you just go to basic 5, and you also go down here to half beat gate. I cut the attack up a little bit, but on both of them, I brought the volume down on the time, and I brought the volume down on the volume, the dynamics. Then I blended it in as well on the mixer here. Instead of having it all the way turned up, I just got it kind of turned down a little bit. Next thing is the Lux Verb. Now, on the Lux Verb, I didn't use any other presets of it. I did cut the decay up some, and I brought this output down. Then I cut this envelope on and made it wet, and I brought the threshold up just a little bit and blended it in again on the mixer here. And the last thing I did was the delay, Fruity Delay 3. Now, Fruity Delay 3, I turned the dry knob down. I kind of panned it out a little bit, and that's about it. I have the time set to 4, and of course the ping pong. And this is what that sounds like with all the effects on it. Now, from there, all I did was I took that, I rendered it out. Once I rendered it out, it became this loop here. And all I did was reverse the loop itself. This has been reversed. Of course, it's normalized, but it's been reversed. And then I just swapped everything around. Once you reverse it, the beginning that was once right here is now right here. So I had to put everything in the exact same place. So all I did was swapped everything around. So this was the first note. or the first chord, second chord, third chord, and fourth chord. All that I did was chopped it up and moved them around. And then I kind of did this little fade in here, or pull the fade in knob, whatever you call it. I don't know, the automation, something like that. I pulled that in and I pulled it in here too. And instead of it being like the smooth curve, I did a single curve, and then I just kind of bumped it up some. Same thing here, but I brought it down so it goes in. It comes in slow but goes out fast. I sent that to my mixer track number 2, and then I added more EQ just to kind of put it in a separate space all by itself. After that, I added a fruity reverb. I cut the decay up a lot, cut the high cut up some and the low cut up some, brought the dry knob down, I brought the wet knob up, and of course on the mixer here I just blended it in through the mixer. And the next thing I added was this Fruity Pan-O-Matic. Fruity Pan-O-Matic is just another way to get your volume or your pan to move automatically by itself, and this is what I used to do that. I cut the speed up just a little bit because I wanted it to move a little bit faster, but I left the amount where it was, so it's only going as far as it goes here. Last but not least, I added on the Fruity Delay 2. Fruity Delay 2, what I did here, I just brought the dry knob down and I just brought the time up to 6. And other than that, that's really all I did with that. And of course, I blended it in through this knob here. And once you play that by itself, this is what it sounds like. Sounds completely different than what it started as, and that's okay. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make something out of just anything, basically. The next thing that I did was I actually used this electric drum kit from Flex. Flex is the only other plugin that I use, or instrument that I use, VST, whatever you call it. The only other one that I use outside of 3X Oscillator, because most of these were made with sounds that I created. In Flex, we got the general library, general MIDI library, and go down here to the drum electronic kit, and I just use some of the hits that are in it. So I use the wood block, I use the conga hi, and I also use whatever this is. I think that says, it looks like STD click. That's what it says. So I used those and I created this rhythm. What I did with it was I actually added Fruity Parametric EQ to kind of put it in its own space. Next thing I did was I added some reverb. Same deal here. I just made the size a little bit bigger, and same thing with the wet knob, dry knob, bringing it down. And I brought that damp down some as well. And then I also did the delay, bringing the dry knob all the way down, or down for the most part. And this is also at 6 seconds, and I inverted the feedback on it. And with the reverb and the delay, I blended those in again on my mixer track. This is what it sounds like with the pad. Next thing that I did was I added this smoothing bass. Now, smoothing bass is a bass that I created using the 3X Oscillator. It's more like a sub bass sound. It's not supposed to be a punchy bass. It's more like a sub bass. And what I did with it was I'm just following the root notes. So it's very easy. You follow D, F, G, and B flat. Some of the root notes are a little bit different because what we looked at in the first, or in the chords, it went D, E, G, and A. So the difference here is this F here and this B flat. But the crazy thing about it is that I do believe these are the actual root notes, but in the chords I have them voiced differently. But these notes are in those chords because these are either going to be the roots of those chords or the sevenths of those chords. So they work well. They're not out of key. Once you hear them together, they sound good because they do go together. And then I just repeated the G here again, just like a little short hit. And the only thing that I really did to the bass was I added a Fruity Parametric EQ, just kind of boost some of those bass frequencies. Then I added this fast distortion just to add more like a saturated sound to the top end of the bass. Cut the threshold down some, I cut the mix down some, but I turned the preamp all the way up. And then lastly, I put another parametric EQ, and that's to take out a lot of that extra harmonics that are up at the top. And then I boosted just a little bit of it here, and then I had the warmth of it. This is why I boosted for warmth, and then I'll cut out some of those low frequencies that we don't really hear. And this is what that sounds like with the sample. The next thing that I did was I made this Tipsy Turby. This is a lead that I created using 3X oscillator. But in the actual playlist or the piano roll, I just kind of laid down some notes that are in the key here. Of course, I started with the root notes on all of them. D here, F, G, and this is the A instead of the B flat. But I just kind of played around, laid these notes down. Then in the mixer, what I did was I added EQ to just kind of bring that space down, take out a lot of those highs, bring out some of those lows, so it'll be sitting in a specific area. And then I also added a fruity reverb, same deal, turning that decay up. I actually added some of the low cut in, turned the high cut up, and brought the size a little bit bigger. And I brought the decay kind of wide, the damp completely out. And I cut the dry knob down and the wet knob all the way in. And the same thing here, the fruity delay, I turned the dry knob down. This is ping pong, and it's sitting at the 2 instead of the 6 this time. And of course, like always, I blended it in using these knobs here. And this is what it sounds like with the entire sample. All right, the next thing that I did was I actually added this other sound that I created today, which is what I call doorbell. And before any other processing, you're going to hear why it sounds like, why I named it doorbell, because it literally sounds like a doorbell. And I couldn't find any sound like this in FL Studio or any of the other packs or any of the other VSTs that we have here. So I just created my own because for some odd reason I wanted a doorbell sound. But in doorbell, I didn't do very much here. I just kind of followed those root notes again. So it's D, E, F, and the A instead of the G here, and instead of the B flat here. We're following these, but these, like I said, once again, these are notes that are already in those chords. And as you can see, these are actually coming before. They're just a little off the beat. They're a little ahead of where they're supposed to be. And I did that on purpose just to kind of give it that effect. And then, of course, the effects that I added onto this is going to be, firstly, the Fruity Parametric EQ, bringing it and putting it in its own space. Hardcore. Now, with hardcore, the thing about it is it's a FL Studio native plugin, but the only thing about it is that it's not in every edition of FL Studio. Now, I do believe it's in the Signature bundle. I know for a fact that it's in the all plugin bundles because that's the one that I use. Now, it may be in the producer bundle. I'm not 100% sure of that. But if you don't have this available in your FL Studio, as you can see, it's telling us exactly what's being used. Chorus is being used and delay is being used. So in FL Studio, you have a chorus, a fruity chorus, and you also have a hyper chorus. You can use that. And then you got the fruity delay 2 and the fruity delay 3. So you can use that as well, just to kind of get this same sound or same vibe. This is a preset called Dreamy FG. Have no idea what the FG means, but let's go with it. And then after that, I have the reverb, and the reverb is just to add on to the sound as far as the hardcore goes. But same thing with my reverb. I pretty much do the same thing. The early reflection is still in the same place. I did make the size a little bit bigger. I brought that low cut up some. Of course, the wet knob all the way up, the dry knob all the way down. And then on our mixer is where it's all blended in. Now, this isn't the only way to do this. It's just the way that I do it for the most part. I don't do it on every single one. Sometimes with like vocals, I do it in a different way. I'll put it on its own send track and then do it that way. But this is how it all sounds with that, the doorbell introduced into the sample. And last, as far as the melody goes, what I did was I found this vocal here on the cloud. This sample actually sounds like this by itself. Now, what I did was I added the Fruity Parametric EQ onto it to kind of take out a lot of the lows, a lot of the highs, put it in its own space as well. And then I added the Fruity Lux Verb. Now, I'm not 100% sure which preset I used, but I do know it was one of these pitch presets because it kind of gave it this pitchy sound to it. I just don't remember exactly which one I used. All I did was, once I selected that preset, I just turned the output down, or the dry output down, the wet output up, and I left it there, and then I blended it in through the mixer like I always do. And then I put on the Fruity Panamatic, and it's just moving it left to right, panned it. I got the speed turned up some, and I got the amount turned up some. And the amount is just how far it goes left and right, and the speed is, of course, how fast it goes from the left to the right or the right to the left. That's neither here nor there. And this is what that sample sounds like with those presets and also in the sample. That is all I did as far as the music goes, as far as the melody goes. I do have some drums in here, and the drums that you hear all come from my Jooce box kit. If you do want to check out that kit, I will put a link in the description for you. This exact sample will be found in my latest sample pack, and these sounds, like I said, these drum sounds are already available now. You can just hit the link in the description if you want to get those. And if you want to hear everything with the drums, I'll let you hear that. But I just want to say first, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because I will be uploading more videos like these, breaking down instrumentals and breaking down samples. But I'll also be uploading more of those cook-up style beats that I know a lot of people like to see and a lot of people like to enjoy. For the rest of the sample, here you go.